Filipinos are known to be good English speakers. Since majority of Filipinos could express themselves proficiently using the English language, establishing rapport with international community has never been an issue. To shed some light as to why Filipinos are good English speakers, I interviewed some of them.
So, I think Filipinos are good at speaking English because of two things. The first reason is that Philippines' education system includes English as a subject from elementary to college. And the second reason is that because Philippines has been colonized by Americans in 1940s.
For me, the reason why Filipinos are good in English are because they continue to learn even outside the school zone. Filipinos are known to be industrious individuals, are known to be studious. That's why they are more on exploring things which they do not know at the very beginning. And I think English is one of the major priorities of the Filipinos when it comes to learning.
So I just want to share, I have read an article that some recognize Philippines as one of the largest nations who speak well of the language, which is English, and it takes 70% of the population. I think primarily the main reason was Filipinos are highly adaptive people, which means we can easily learn, we can easily adapt to the things that we're being exposed for such a long time. Let's say, for example, when we go back to our history class, you know that Americans are the first group, and you know that the first group of teachers are Thomasites. That these people introduce us the education system, wherein we learn how to read, how to write, and make the most of the language.
I think Filipinos are good English speakers because they get exposed to it at an early age. Since most people here in the Philippines associate the ability to speak good English with intelligence, most parents would talk to their kids in English, and as a result, their kids become familiar and get used to the language, get comfortable with the language.
Hi, so I think the reason why Filipinos are good English speakers is because most of us Filipinos really want to learn it. For whatever reasons we might have, such as migration, or we want to prove something in the society, it's our will to learn it that made us able to be good at it.
Filipinos are good in English, or are well versed into speaking and writing it, because it's required. It's one of the two official languages of our country. It's also used as a medium of instruction at school. So from the moment you started schooling up until you ended it, you use English as well as Filipino. So we kind of grew up with it, and there's that familiarity with the language. For some, it's even their native language, that it's what they use at home. It's the only language that they speak. Another factor that you can think of is the American influence. So we were colonized by them, and up until this point, their influence on many aspects of our lives remains, specifically language. We use English every day. Wherever you go, there is English. So it's kind of rooted in our culture, in our lives as Filipinos. But for me, it depends on how you define good. Because it's a little subjective. If you compare it to our Southeast Asian neighbors, or our Asian neighbors even, yeah, we're good in speaking the language. But if we're going to compare it with native users of the language, then we don't even come close. And it kind of degrades as time passes by because of the level of education in our country.
So
from my point of view, the first reason is because we've grown up with English ever since then, from our younger years, including our textbooks, and mostly the medium of communication that we have in the Philippines would be in English, and that's something that we normally looked up when someone is also talking in English. And also, second point is because we're multicultural now. There's a lot of globalization that's happening. The third one is we do have this personality that we are willing to expose ourselves into a new world, and we're not afraid to learn something new.
The way to be efficient or fluent in speaking English is to be confident with yourself, and of course with the help of educating yourself also, and reading some articles in English, trying to speak English, practice your grammar, and also downloading some app that could help you enhance your speaking skill.
People should always do things outside his or her comfort zone. He or she must build self-confidence when it comes to public speaking, because that is the major thing he or she can offer to himself or herself. Next is continuous learning. Never ever stop learning. There are lots of references, there are lots of devices that can be used by an individual to perform and exercise his or her speaking.
With our increased dependency on social media, we can use it to effectively learn English by making meaningful connections with other people using the language. Also, with our technology providing endless ways to communicate, we can get in touch with people from other countries, specifically from English-speaking countries, so that we can gain confidence in speaking their language.
So for those who are aspiring to learn English language effectively, I have 3 tips for you. First is to familiarize yourself with the language. Second is to understand the language. And third is to practice using it. The more often you practice, the more effective you'll learn.
First things first, I found myself reading a book. The first book that I have is The Adventure of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. And it's not because the story itself, but there's a time wherein I really engage myself, and at some point I get into the perspective of the author. And the best thing about this is I learn to learn more words, because every time I encountered a word, I try to encircle the word, and then I'm gonna look the meaning in the big and thick dictionary, and then if I found it already, I will branch it, and then I will just look at the word. But sometimes the well-defined word is not exactly the word that is being used. That is why we using the context clue techniques, that the word, that how's the word is being used in the sentence. Okay, so another one, it add and stores up to your vocabulary, wherein you can use that for such point of time, right? So second one is watch. I do watch video tutorials a lot. It's because as an educator, I taught general chemistry subjects, one of the complicated subjects, and there's a lot of complicated topics. So why? It's because it helps me a lot. It's because upon reading, yes, I grasp a lot of theories, principles. I used to get the idea of the formulas and how it's gonna be used in such problem. But the main reason why I do watch is because I want to learn the same way as a student wants to learn. The third thing is you have to write. Read, watch, and write. RWW. If you will notice, those are micro skills. It's because I do believe when you learn, you have to find yourself enjoying, and you see the benefits of those things.
As you learn English, here are some tips that you can take away with you. First is to read. read as much as you can and do it as often as you can. Because it's going to help you over time. It's going to widen your vocabulary, which is important because it's going to make you sound much more knowledgeable and much more convincing to your audience. Second is to take baby steps and just be patient. No one can become a very good English speaker overnight. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of work to do so. So just keep on practicing. Third is to don't sweat it too much as you practice. There's bound to be a lot of grammar errors along the way, and it's okay to commit those. I assure you though that you'll hear a lot from people, but that's okay. Just take the good and leave the bad, and keep on writing and speaking your thoughts because it's going to help you so much in your journey. Fourth is to polish your grammar and don't worry too much about your accent. A lot of Filipinos worry too much on how they sound, what their accent is like, that they forget that grammar is much more important, because good grammar can help you get that message across, which is vital in communication. Lastly, be confident. Don't worry too much on how you sound, what errors you may commit. What important is you get that message across.
And definitely advice is just go out there and have that conversation. It's not easy, especially if you are on my personality, which is kind of shy. But if you go out and have that conversation with someone else who's really fluent in English and you're willing to try and learn, it's a two-way communication. You cannot just speak without listening to the other party, and you have to listen as well and respond properly. So by then you'll be able to learn things, and that's gonna be quicker than you can think of, because other than theories and textbooks, having that conversation is very important. That's where you can practice. It's like life. You learn as you practice, and you learn as you experience it.
There you have it. I hope you got some enlightenment from this video. Whether you find it useful or not, it's all up to you. What matters most is you exert some efforts to learn. If you want more worthwhile videos, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because this is a place where learning is a sure thing. See you again next time.